When hearing cosmological argument, most people picture a philosopher looking backward in time, searching for the exact chronological beginning of the universe. But applying that timeline view to Thomas Aquinas misrepresents his project. Aquinas conceded the physical universe could be temporally infinite. To him, a universe stretching backward forever doesn't invalidate the need for a foundational cause. This is because his arguments rely on ontological dependency rather than a sequence of events. Ontological dependency asks what sustains a thing's existence at this exact current millisecond. Aquinas is not an ancient cosmologist looking backward down a timeline. He is a metaphysician looking downward at the structural foundation of reality right now. This distinction changes how we must define the first mover. We must discard the modern definition of motion, which usually refers to an object physically traveling through space. Instead, the framework relies entirely on the Aristotelian concept of modus, metaphysical change. In this system, potency is the innate capacity of an object to become something else. Cold wood, for example, has the potency to become hot. Act is the realization of that capacity. The wood cannot heat itself, it requires an external catalyst, like fire. This leads to a specific rule. A thing in potency cannot actualize itself. Actualization requires an external agent already in a state of act. If every instance of change requires an external actualizer, then the universe, viewed as a system of change, cannot be self-originating. Any observable transition from potential to actual points to a source outside that specific transition. To follow this logic, we must distinguish between a temporal efficient cause and a sustaining cause. A temporal cause operates horizontally across time. A father begets a son. Once the son exists, the father can be removed from the equation, and the son continues independently. In a horizontal chain, the effect eventually outlives the cause. A sustaining cause operates vertically. Think of a musician playing a song. The music exists only while the musician plays. If the musician stops, the music vanishes instantly. Aquinas uses this vertical, real-time dependency model to map God's relationship with the world. Tracing a sustaining cause means drilling down through the layers of present reality to find a base layer that requires no external support to exist. Within this vertical framework, we find the first way, the argument from motion. The premise relies on empirical observation. Things in the world are currently undergoing change. Whatever is in motion is moved by another. In a vertical chain of dependency, a regress of actualizers cannot be infinite. An infinitely long paintbrush handle still requires a hand to move it. Without the handle has no power to paint, regardless of its length. The chain must terminate in a first mover. This mover must be pure act, containing no unfulfilled potency, because any remaining potential would require a further mover to actualize it. The fact that change is happening right now points to this terminal point, a foundation that does not change itself but allows the existence of all other change. The second way shifts the focus from change to the bestowal of existence. Physical objects don't contain the reason for their existence within their nature. As these texts argue, an object possesses existence, but existence isn't part of its definition. It is acquired, meaning it must be bestowed by a cause not depending on another for being. Aquinas identifies this as ipsum esse subsistens, subsistent being itself. The third way addresses this through contingency. Contingent things are those that can either exist or not exist. If everything were contingent and time were infinite, there would be a moment where nothing existed, and if true, nothing would exist now. Since things do exist, there must be a necessary cause that owes its necessity to nothing else. Motion, causality, and contingency each provide a different path to the same conclusion, a structurally necessary foundation for reality. In the 20th century, analytic philosophy launched a counterattack to dismantle these classical arguments. David Hume critiqued the necessity of a terminal cause. Hume argued that there is no logical contradiction in an infinite regress. He questioned why a causal chain could not simply extend backward forever without a first term. The Thomistic response is that while a horizontal chain might be infinite, a vertical chain cannot be. An infinite number of instruments still requires a source of power to be effective in the present. Bertrand Russell attacked using the fallacy of composition. Russell argued that because every part of the universe requires a cause, it's a logical fallacy to assume the universe as a whole requires one. It's like assuming an elephant is microscopic just because its cells are. Aquinas' defense is that the universe is an aggregate of contingent things. In this view, a collection of dependent things remains dependent and still requires a sustaining cause. While Hume and Russell complicate the discussion of a chronological origin, their critiques do not directly address the vertical dependency stack. This leaves us with the most significant modern critique, the inductive leap. If we prove a first mover, how do we justify jumping to a personal God? Aquinas agrees that the jump is not immediate. The cosmological arguments do not, by themselves, describe the God of revelation. They generate a working hypothesis of a first principle. We can call this alpha. Aquinas uses negative theology to define this alpha. We can logically deduce that it is not a created thing, it is not composed of parts, and it is not subject to change. Further details regarding its nature are a matter for theology, not pure philosophy. The metaphysical terminus of the five ways is a logical placeholder, a necessary foundation for a coherent reality. As the division between the sciences suggests, the five ways are not physics experiments. Empirical science studies contingent objects moving within the universe. The sapiential enterprise of metaphysics studies existence itself. Aquinas is mapping the ontological grammar of reality. These arguments attempt to show that the universe is structurally grounded by an absolute reality. This does not replace modern physics, but it provides a philosophical context that gives empirical observation a rational basis. Aquinas' arguments suggest that a metaphysical foundation is a rational conclusion, providing a space where logic and deeper inquiry can meet.